Welcome, Middlers, to the Medium in the Middle podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I take you on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual exploration. I am a Reiki Master Teacher, a spiritual and business mentor, and of course, a psychic medium. And I am here to share my story and help you tap into your extraordinary abilities. Join me every Wednesday as we dive into the realms of intuition, energy healing, and all things mystical. Whether you're a seasoned spiritual seeker or just dipping your toes into the magical waters, this podcast is your go-to source for inspiration, guidance, and a whole lot of lessons and laughter along the way. Let's get started. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to episode 277. My name is Stephanie. I am the medium in the middle. Welcome if you are new. Welcome back if you're a middler. If you are new, I share my story from the very beginning, starting at episode 1, when I first realized I was a medium, so my first spirit story ever. So if you are currently going through your spiritual development, if you feel alone, if you're looking for help, go back to episode 1. I promise it'll be very helpful, those first 10 episodes, helping you as you discover what's going on in your life. This episode is coming after the long weekend. I hope you all had a good long weekend. I had 3 real days off. It was incredible. Summer finally showed up here in Banff. We have like 2 weeks of summer before it starts to get cold again and the temperatures are dropping. But I'll take what I can get. I've been out in the sun, on the paddleboard, walking Archie. It's been wonderful. I'm feeling refreshed and ready to jump into the busiest season of the year. Here we go, September and Q4. So today's episode is inspired by a few different conversations that I've been having or overheard or people have told me. So I'm bringing this to the podcast because I think we need to have a conversation about it. Don't tell the Muggles. Let's talk about it. So just in case you aren't caught up on Harry Potter speak, a Muggle is a person who lacks any sort of magical abilities. So I like to call the normies a Muggle. The non-spiritual, non-intuitive, they don't like this type of stuff people. Those are the Muggles. The I like this type of stuff people, you're one of us. If you are listening to this podcast and you found yourself here, listening to the medium in the middle, you're probably not a Muggle. But we all have our Muggle friends, and there are some things that we tell them and some things that we don't. I still remember a conversation I had with my brother once about energy, and he had a bunch of questions, and I had a bunch of answers. And he was like, "Oh, so I'm not weird?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, so this happens to other people?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, so I've just been talking to the wrong people this whole time?" I said, "Yes, exactly. You've been talking to the wrong people. You've been in the wrong rooms. You haven't been around people who understand. So everyone's just looking at you saying you're weird. And then you're thinking you're weird. You're not weird. You're just surrounded by Muggles." So I have a lot of quote unquote crazy episodes coming down the pipeline. Things have been changing. Things have been leveling up. Spirit's been going a little, doing lots of things in my life. And there was a week where it was kind of thing after thing after thing. And I don't usually talk about this kind of stuff to my friends. I don't talk about work stuff. I don't tell them these stories. I don't repeat stories from the podcast unless it's like a really, 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 really good one. But for the most part, I don't tell them much. And I know if you have been listening to the podcast since the beginning, in the beginning, I had no one to talk to, and I felt so alone. So I was talking to anyone and everyone that would listen to me. You know, when I was teaching CrossFit, I was like, "Hey, I think I can talk to dead people. This happened." When I was with friends, "Hey, I think I can talk to the dead. This happened." When I was with family, "Hey, now it is my full-time job. I've been doing it for 5+ years, 6 days a week. I talk about it enough. I've done 277 episodes on the woo-woo stuff. By the time I get to the end of my day, I don't want to talk about it anymore. So this is all to say that my Muggle friends don't get many of these stories. I don't repeat them. I don't tell them. I know they're not really interested or they don't really care. And to be honest, I usually don't like talking about it because, again, after working 6 days a week, talking about it all day long, I've had enough talking about it. So I don't need to go to my friends and decompress. But, like I mentioned, crazy things have been happening that will all be podcast episodes in the future. So, like I mentioned, there was this week that was just kind of mind-blowing thing after mind-blowing thing after mind-blowing thing. And I felt similar to like back at the beginning of the podcast where like I was deer in the headlights. My eyes were open. I was like, whoa, what just happened? You know, my head is spinning. I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. And, you know, you want support. You're asking people for questions, but there's not many people I can ask for advice or support around these type of things. So I went to my Muggle friends. And the response was varied. Some of them just stared at me blankly. Some of them thought it was cool. Some of them asked questions and wanted more. But I had one friend who said something that was like very interesting and it stuck in my head. And I was telling her this crazy story and I was doing the whole build up and then, you know, and then this happened and then this happened and then we did this and then this. And I was like, yeah, so that's what I did yesterday. And she just looked at me and she was like, Steph, I think you're getting weirder. And I laughed and my instant response was, no, I'm just telling you more now. And it really made me think after that I said that because I was like, oh yeah, I don't usually tell my friends these things. So they don't know about all these stories that happen all the time because I don't tell the Muggles. And it was also kind of like, I'm comfortable with telling you. I don't care what you think. I don't care if you think I'm weirder. I don't care if whatever. But it was something that really crossed my mind of like, oh yeah, not everyone's into this stuff. And we probably shouldn't tell them. So before I get further into this episode, just a few announcements for September. It is back to school. Congratulations, parents, I think, right? This is good. Back to routine, back to schedules. So yeah, we are in the thick of it. September, October, November are all very busy months here at Medium in the Middle. We have lots coming down the line. If you are ready to learn Reiki, the next level 1 is September 13th and 14th. If you are ready for level 2, September 27th and 28th. The next mediumship practice circle is on September 20th. These are all held virtually. And save the date, October 25th is the Business Planning 2026 workshop. I haven't given it a cool name yet, but save the date, October 25th. My famous workshop is coming back. I only do this once a year. If you own a small business, you want to be there. More information is on my website. I will leave all the links you need down below in the show notes, or you can visit my website, themediuminthemiddle.com. So even some of the woo-woo things that happen in my life, I almost like to say they're unrepeatable. There's no words, there's no way I could describe, there's no way I could explain, there's no way I could recreate some things. It's just kind of like sit there, jaw dropped, eyes open, like, And I keep thinking, like, how do I even tell the story? Like, how do I even share this experience? How do I even repeat this? So there's a lot of things that I just can't. And if I ever do, I'll put it on the podcast. But the things that I do try to retell, yeah, it's pretty woo. So I want this podcast to be a reminder about to know your audience and who you're talking about this stuff with. It is not something that you can talk to everybody about. Not everyone is spiritual. Not everyone believes in this type of stuff. Not everyone is interested. The same way you wouldn't want someone talking to you about football stats or the stock market or something that you're not interested in. Other people don't want to hear this stuff. And you'll probably be met with some sort of, you're weird, that's odd, you made that up, that's fake. If you get responses like that, you're probably talking to a muggle. If you get responses like, no way, that's cool, that happened to me too, oh my God, let me tell you about my dream, yep, I understand what you're going through, you found one of us. But I don't want the talking to muggles part to discourage you. A lot of people won't get this stuff, quote unquote, this stuff. And that's okay. Not everyone's supposed to get everything. Not everyone's at the same level of understanding. Not everyone needs to know this stuff. Not everyone is interested in this stuff. Just be mindful of who you talk to. If your husband isn't interested in this stuff, don't tell him about it. You're wasting your breath. Go tell your best friend. Go start a podcast. Go tell someone who might be interested, not your neighbor. So the few things that have been happening over the last few weeks have just reminded me to know my audience. Even though I don't normally tell my friends, even when something super cool, crazy happens, I probably still shouldn't tell my friends because they don't care and they now just think I'm weirder. But that's fine. I'm already the weird, witchy friend. When they need something, I'm the one they go to, though. So another thing happened, very muggly, I guess, that kind of adds to this conversation and the podcast. It was just a long weekend, and we had a summer barbecue. Like I mentioned, summer just showed up here in Banff. It's finally sunny out. So we all decided to have a barbecue. We made a bunch of stuff, brought it all together to our friend's house. And then we're all sitting down for dinner, chatting at the dinner table, and the light above the dinner table starts flickering. Whatever. We all keep eating. And then the light starts flickering even more. And then we all kind of look up, smile, keep talking. And then the light starts flickering even more. And everyone goes silent. And I try to make a little joke. I'm like, guys, I'm here. Of course there's going to be a ghost here. Like, don't worry. And there was 2 people at the table who maybe would have assumed that the light flickering was for themselves and one of their loved ones. So I looked at my one friend and I raised my eyebrows. And in my head, that meant, hey, this is for you. He did not understand that, but I was like, eyebrows raised. And then we just kept eating. And then he said, the lights flicker sometimes, but they've never flickered that much. So his mother is passed, and I know that. Obviously, he's my friend. And I knew it was his mom right away. We were at his house. It was his mom. His mom flickers the lights very often in his house. But she was coming to say happy birthday to somebody. And it was someone's birthday, like very close to the day that we were having the barbecue. Because she just kept saying in my ear, happy birthday, happy birthday. And I thought to myself, like, I could tell the table. Or I could not. So I decided to not say anything. I just smiled, raised my eyebrow at my friend, thought he could read my mind and understood what I was putting down, and I kept eating my corn on the cob. So a few days later, I'm back with this friend. We're having a few drinks. And then after a few drinks, he looks at me and he says, do you really think that was my mom the other night? And I was like, what? He's like, the light's flickering. They've never flickered that much in my house. Do you really think it was my mom? I was like, yeah, obviously. He's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. Didn't you see me look at you? And I raised my eyebrows, as in like, it's your mom. He's like, oh, I didn't see you look at me. And I was like, yeah, I was giving you the eyes of like, He's like, oh, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, it meant it was your mom. Duh. He's like, oh, why was she there? And I said, well, I don't know. She was saying happy birthday to someone. So someone's birthday is close to that day we had the barbecue. She was saying happy birthday. His eyes opened. It was my dad's birthday the day before the barbecue, the 28th. He said it was my dad's birthday on the 28th. I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, she says happy birthday to your dad then. Again, I'm getting the blank stares, eyes open from him. He's like, definitely not someone I've told stories to, not someone I've talked about this stuff about. I've known this guy for well over 10 years. But it's, again, know your audience. I don't talk about this kind of stuff in my everyday life. So, yeah, when his mom passed, I, of course, said, like, hey, if you ever want a reading, I'm here. And he said, yeah, thanks. And that was the end of it. So we've never really talked about this kind of stuff. A lot of my other friends has said, hey, so-and-so should probably come see you. Hey, so-and-so probably needs a reading. Hey, I think you should really read so-and-so, my friend. And I was like, yeah, like I told him I'm here whenever he wants, but you can't force people to do these things. He knows what I do. He knows where I work. He has my phone number. When he needs something, he'll call me. So anyways, we're out. We're having drinks. He's saying, was it really my mom? I said, yes. He said, how do you know? I said, because this is my job. And then I said, she was saying happy birthday. Now I guess it's to your dad because his birthday was the day before. That makes sense. She was showing me like a 3-day window. So it was either that day, the day before, or the day after. His eyes were just like, again, deer in the headlights. Stare. You guys all know the look. And I was like, yeah. He's like, so, like, how does that work? And I said, have I never told you any of my stories? He was like, no. I was like, buckle up. So, I throw him a few. I got stories for days. Days and days and days. I have cool stories. I have a podcast. I have so many stories. So I told him a few podcast stories, or I just told him a few things that have been happening in the last week, or just, the regular everyday stuff to me. And it was really interesting having a conversation with a Muggle. And he was interested at this point. He hasn't been interested before. He's never asked me before. He's never inquired before. His mom has been passed for a few years now. Never had the conversation before. And I could see the wheels turning. He was like, huh, interesting. He's very respectful. He didn't ask many questions. He just sat and listened. I said, I could tell you another one if you want. He was like, yeah, okay. I said, okay. We have full drinks. Let's go. And then I also was laughing in my head because that's kind of my vice. Give me a few drinks and I'll start yapping and telling stories. But I try not to. But if you ask a question and if I have a wine in my hand, I'll probably answer. So the last little story that actually inspired this podcast episode and made me want to put these 3 mini stories into a podcast about Don't Tell the Muggles was something that happened today. I have a friend staying with me, and she was out for breakfast with other friends. And she came home and was telling me about the breakfast. And she said, hey, do you know so-and-so was staying at so-and-so's house? And I was like, oh, I don't know so-and-so. And she said, oh, yeah, well, she was telling me that she was considering staying at her house to watch her dog. And she said, okay, I'll come on this day because it's the full moon. And the full moon will tell me if I should stay at your house or not. And I was eating breakfast and I laughed. And she said the other girl rolled her eyes essentially. And they were all like blah, blah, blah. And I was just sitting there and I was like, this is why we don't tell the Muggles things. I was like, go into the house and wait for the full moon to tell you, but don't tell other people what you're doing. And we had a good laugh because she was like, what? I was like, yeah, go do that stuff, but don't tell people that you're doing that stuff. At least don't tell the Muggles because you're going to get eye rolls. You are not going to get understanding. And that's what I want the focus of this episode to be, is know your audience. Don't go to a sports store and ask them for a recipe. They don't have recipes. They have sporting goods. Know who you're talking to. Know where you are. Know when to bring this stuff up. And know when to just stay quiet. When to just not tell the barbecue that someone's mom is here saying happy birthday to their dad. Just don't say it. There will be opportunities that arise a few days later where you can deliver the message. But especially when you're developing, it can make you feel wrong or weird or uncomfortable, or when you're not met with supportive information or people, it can make you feel weird and alone and outcasted. I'm here to say, you're just talking to the wrong people. Stop talking to the Muggles and you'll feel much more supported. You'll feel much more understood. You will feel not so alone because we get you, we understand, we want to hear about your dreams, we want to know what the moon said to you, we want to know what the tree did, we want to know those things. The Muggles do not. So save your breath, save your energy. When they're interested, trust me, they will ask a question, and that's your open door. But until they ask the question, don't tell the Muggles. So that's what I wanted to share this week, those 3 little stories happening over the last few weeks. And then the final nail in the coffin this morning was that last comment about the moon. And I thought, wow, I should bring this to the podcast because sometimes we just need that little reminder of like, hey, just watch who you're talking to. They're not going to get it anyways. And it might just hurt your feelings. Go find the people who get it, and you'll feel much more understood and supported. It's 333 right now. All right, well, I'm going to wrap up this podcast episode. The 333 means we're done, I guess. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. I release new episodes every Wednesday. Follow me on Instagram at Medium in the Middle. I post a lot of helpful information if you are on your spiritual development journey. I share a lot of tips and tricks and more information on my Instagram. All the links you need will be down below in the show notes. Everything is on my website, themediuminthemiddle.com, if you want to book an appointment with me virtually or in person here in Banff, Alberta. But until next week, Middlers, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye.